Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our reading of Confucius Analects. And today we will start from book 18. Total has 20 books. We are right now on book 18. Book 18 is very special because book 18 is, I think, all. They have 11 chapter and all of this 11 chapter, yeah, just double check. Yes, all of them are related historical account, and they have the people over there. So since we are not study history, so we probably don't need to know all the detail about the people, but we just want to know why the person is in this text. That probably enough. Unless you have a special interest, yeah, you're welcome to ask a question or bring the knowledge, okay, about the history background. So 11 chapter, I think we might finish this week, or left 2, 3, we can finish next week. Then we can move to book 19. And book 19 is also another special one because it's all about the Confucius disciples. And I think that's a very good to understand how does different disciples interpret Confucius' teaching. That's also important. And then we go to book 20, which is very short, only 3 chapters. Okay, so then we finish, and congratulations everybody if you went through this. Okay, so let's start from book 18 and Wei Zi, and I translate as Viscount. Okay, so that's the format is you can raise your hand to read your favorite translation, and then after that, Amang and I are going to share our translation, and then we can have a discussion. So let's start from book 18, chapter 1. Okay. So I assume Kwang, I want to read, right? Thank you, Kwang.
Yes, as usual, I read the translation by Professor Robert Eno, 18.1. Wei Zi left him. Qi Zi became his slave. Began remonstrated with him and died. Confucius said there were 3 run men of the yin.
Thank you, Kwang. Is anyone want to read your translation? Let me get. Okay, so that's the translation we have. Among.
All right. Book 18, Viscount Wei. During the tyrannical rule of the Yin dynasty, Viscount Wei was expelled. Viscount Ji was enslaved, and Bijan kept admonishing and died from it. Confucius said there were 3 red people in the Yin court.
Thank you, Amam. Here has a few historical background. So Yin is also Shang, okay, which is a dynasty before Confucius dynasty. Confucius dynasty is Zhou, and before is Yin, okay. So they have the revolution, so that means the end of Yin dynasty. They have the tyrannical rule by Yin dynasty. His name is Zhou, okay. So during this tyrannical rule of Yin dynasty, and Confucius said they have the 3 Ren people. As we mentioned, the Ren is one of Confucius' teaching, benevolence or humaneness. So this kind of quality is irrelevant to your dynasty. Even you are working for the enemy, your enemy, you still can have this kind of quality. It doesn't matter you have the sage king or tyrant as your lord, you can still have the this quality, the Ren, become a Ren people. So Confucius, here use 3 examples on his previous dynasty. One is Viscount Wei, and another one is Viscount Ji, and another one is Bigan. They are all related to the king, okay, the tyrant king, okay. So Viscount Wei is his half brother, and he tried to give advice, okay, admonish, and he got expelled. So Wei Zi actually become escape, and then after Zhou Revolution, he get a state, okay, called Song. Okay, so Confucius' ancestor is from this one. So basically, we can say Confucius was original from this Viscount Wei, okay, the state of Song. Okay, that's one thing. Second, Ji, Viscount Ji was enslaved, okay, because he also gives advice, and the tyrant doesn't like him, and he doesn't want to escape. So he being enslaved. But after the revolution, or after the Yin dynasty being overthrown, he, according to legendary history, he escaped to Korea. So he became the founder of Korean or whatever, I don't know, but it went to the Korean. And the Bigan is his uncle, the tyrant's uncle, and according to the story, he was being killed, okay, being disavowed, okay, because if you want to read the novel, the book called The League of Gods, okay, or the Feng Shen Bang, or some people may know, and talk about Bi Gan has been, his heart had been dig out, okay, or he removed his heart and died, okay, something like this. So that's the story. And then Confucius here is talking about in dynasty, even in the previous dynasty, there's the 3 Ren people, okay, Wei Zi, Ji Zi, and Bi Gan. The reason the Zi I didn't translate as Wei Zi, I translated as a Viscount. The reason is this Zi doesn't mean he is a master or mister. That means his official title. Okay, the feudal, one of the during the feudal system, his title, because they come with the ranking. We call it Duke, Marquis, Count, Viscount, and the Baron. So he's on the a little bit lower level, so he is Viscount. That's why we translate as Viscount instead of Zi. So that's the story on this one, and then Amang.
Thank you. This strikes me as one of those chapters that gets overlooked in the Cliff Notes version of the Analects, because it's all about talking back against authority. And that is not the consummate Confucianism that interested parties wanted to have spreading through their society. The idea that anyone should be admonishing their superior is anathema to modern Confucian sensibilities. And there has been real emphasis on those roles of hierarchy and the need to keep those well in check. But this is an entire chapter. It's just one little chapter about 3 men speaking up against power and being punished for it, but they are the pinnacles of the type of person Confucius would say is exhibiting Ren. I want to just put a footnote in that, because it's always good to reread the Analects all the way through to realize that in the abridged versions that are often now taught, some things are just passed over or glossed over or not examined deeply. remonstration being probably the key lesson that is glossed over and not taught deeply. The other thing I wanted to say is about this time frame and this meaning of Z as Viscount, as opposed to what it later came to mean as sort of Sir or Master, or, you know, the Honorable. We talked about this quite a bit in The Art of War, but not so much here. And that is that this world in which Confucius was writing from, and times just earlier than his, was a time of upheaval where feudal honor battles between lordlings for their own honor, riding chariots, very ceremoniously fighting at one another, that was slowly being replaced in the springs and autumns period by conscripted rank army warfare and fielding large amounts of people into warfare. Why is this important? Because that title being associated with those feudal lords gets transferred into a title that means someone of learning and acumen. And why it becomes so important is because it's no longer enough to simply be born to the place where you own that honorific. You now also deserve to have it if you are clever enough to be able to organize and administrate the sort of logistical nightmare that is trying to run large amounts of people, usually an army, but then also that can translate into coolie labor within your own state. And so somebody who could marshal the sort of wisdom to do that was considered as valuable or more than these feudal lords. And so you're in a time of struggle between the born gentry and a burgeoning meritocracy. Confucius was very much on the side of the meritocracy, but he's pointing back to when even it was in the feudal system and saying, even there, you could see people of rank character. And this is how we know they were there, because they were able to do the hardest thing that a Ren person must do, and that is remonstrate with an authority that has the ability to make their life very difficult or end it outright. So that's my 2 cents about this chapter. I think it's a good one. I'm excited to hear everyone else's impression.
Thank you, Aman. Let's have a few minutes to discuss on this chapter. Okay. Okay, Kwang, I know you probably have a lot to say. Please.
Yes, I would like to mention the fact that aristocracy, even in the East and the West, was born from the army. And the original meaning of the 5 ranks of aristocracy in China, Nan, Zi, Hou, Gong, was would sound in their original meaning very like the rank in an army, because let's not forget that all those people were fighting theoretically either for the Shang King, the Shang dynasty having ruled between 1600 BCE to 1046 BCE, or for the Zhou King, okay, having retained the same nobility titles, and the Zhou have ruled between 1046 to 256 BCE. So Nan, which has been translated as baron, means chief, and Zi, which has been translated as Viscount, means master, but master like in an army, okay, when you have the master chief, for example, in the navy, or in the or the officer for the soldiers in the foot army. And Hou means a lord, and Pa, before Hou you have Pa means leader, and Hou means lord, and Gong means prince. in English, in general, Gong has been translated as duke, and because of the tradition, it has been maintained as duke, but in reality, Gong means prince. So in English, it has been translated as baron, viscount, count, marquis, and duke, but in reality, I repeat the second time, it means chief, leader, chief, master, leader, lord, and prince. So when you hear those titles, it evokes a lot the ranks of officers in an army, and it's normal because aristocracy, first and foremost, is military aristocracy. I just want to take an example from the Western tradition. Duke comes from dux in Latin, dux, D-U-X, and dux was the title of the commander-in-chief of many Roman legions, okay? So later on in the Middle Ages, dux became duke. So, and that's all. I just wanted to give the exact translation of the Chinese nobility because it lasted for 4,000 years after all. And the only detail that I wanted to say too is that Jason mentioned that Confucius is from the Shanging dynasty. That's true, through the dukedom of Song or the Principality of Song. And Confucius family is at the 81st generation in 2024. I stop here.
81st.
Yes.
I think it's more than that. Probably 87 or 89. I think it's more than that.
No, not 87, 81st.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Because if you go back to
I know, you search in the internet, you will find it. Okay, I think it's public.
You're frozen, Jason. Okay, now you're not frozen.
Okay. All right. So
anyway, it's an old family.
I know. Yeah, it's a old family. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. But let me repeat. Thank you, Kwang. Okay. So from the higher to lower should be go from prince, lord, leader, master, and the chief. Right. That's the order.
Exactly.
Yeah. From the higher ranking. So remember, according to Kwang's proper translation, should be prince, lord, leader, master, chief. And right now we talk about these two people, Jizi and Weizi, they are on the level of master. That's why it's Zi. Okay, so that's yeah. If you are interested.
And, exactly. And normally, if they go to war, they would be responsible of armies of different sizes, depending of their rank, of course.
All right, thank you. Any other comment, question you have about this chapter? Okay, move on. Chapter 2.
Okay, so I read once again the translation by Professor Robert Eno, 18.2. When Liu Xiahui served as warden, he was thrice dismissed. People asked him, "Should you not leave for another state?" Liu Xiahui answered, "If one served a lord by means of the straight down, where could one go and not be thrice dismissed? To serve a lord by means of a crooked down, why need one leave the country of one's parents?"
Thank you, Kwang. Okay, chapter 2. Among.
Had to unmute. Liu Shaohui served as a warden and was fired 3 times. Someone said, "Why don't you leave?" He said, "If I serve people and my Tao is straight, where can I go without being fired 3 times? If I've served people and my Tao is crooked, Why do I need to leave my home state?
Thank you, Amam. Okay, so Liu Xiahui, okay, is another famous people, and he probably 100 years before Confucius. If you are interested in the Zhuangzi, in the Taoism, they have the chapter 29, talking about the Liu Xiahui's brother is Dao Zhi. Okay, he is a terrible, terrible robber. Okay, which is not true. Okay, this is in Zhuangzi, but a lot of people know Liu Xiahui from this Zhuangzi story instead of Confucius. So that's the story. Okay, Liu Xiahui served as the warden, and during this time, warden we can say it's a criminal judge. Okay, so because at that time they don't separate the judge and the warden, so he was fired 3 times, and then of course if you do a job being dismissed many times, that means you may not be suitable for the job. So someone will say, "Oh, why don't you leave?" And Liu Xiahui say, "If I serve the people and I keep my Dao straight," the word he used, 直道而示人 means he follow the Dao, okay, doing everything right, dutiful, righteously, okay. But he said, if I do this way right, doesn't matter where I go, I will get fired. If I don't do it right, why I have to leave my hometown and go other ways? So his logic is, I do the right thing here, okay, and then that shows. Liu Xiahui, the attitude. That's another historical account. And here, in this text, it doesn't say Confucius say anything. It just third person description talk about this historical account. That's it. Amang, please.
I like this one. I like it because it is a reference obliquely to Robert Jur, and Robert Jur actually figures in legalist arguments about how to go about punishment. I think it was Han Feize who said that there was a way to make gold untouchable by even Robert Jur. So these kind of subtle references just flit about throughout Chinese literature. There's a lot of cross-referencing, and that's something I've really come to appreciate as we've been working through these translations. I want to say something about the choices and style of translation. Some of you have heard this. For some of you, it may be a first, but this expression, my Dao, is straight, or my Dao is crooked. The fact that he is expressing it as my Dao is clearly saying this is not like the Taoist referring to the Tao. And when we talk about that, or when we choose to translate it, most times we use a capital T to indicate that it is sort of a transcendent, larger than, all-encompassing Tao. Here it is just my little Tao, my way, my discourse, my path, my course for doing things. And again, any one of those words, pathway, discourse, all you can look them all up in a Chinese to English dictionary, and they'll all be viable translations for Dao. But that isn't the word Dao. Dao is a word that is loaded language in the Chinese lexicon, and therefore deserving of being retained as a Chinese word unto itself. That making that choice as translators is to make the choice that the reader should do a little investing in understanding a term on its own terms. But even those terms recontextualize depending on who's using them. Confucius's Tao is not Lao Tzu's Tao, and both of their Tao is not Sun Tzu's Tao. They're all using the same word, but with very different sort of connotations to it and very different polemic meanings to it, trying to engage their audience to a view. So just something I want to point out for those playing along new at home or those who might have missed it in the past. Other than that, as to this chapter itself, yeah, it feels like a little thumbnail of things to come and things of, with Christmas past.
Thank you, Amon. Okay, let's have some discussion and then let's go to Kwang first. Kwang, please.
Yes, I think that what is interesting in this paragraph is what I understand from the reply by Liu Xiahui is that if you serve your Lord in a correct manner, you wouldn't expect to be dismissed once, twice, or thrice, or even more, because the duty of a true officer is sometimes to say unpleasant things for the mind of the Lord. And if he's in a bad mood, he can kick you out once, twice, or thrice, or more. So if you're a right officer, that you serve him with a straight down, it is to be expected. So, and if you truly want to serve your Lord, wow, you have to do it as in a with relaxation, with a relaxed mind, and expect to be dismissed. I stop here.
Thank you, Kwang. Okay, I have to admit, let me show. Kwang, you probably want to have, okay. I think I didn't get the message right. Okay, I have to admit on this one. 直道而示人. I translate as if I serve people with my Dao crook, it's not match well. I think what he means is I keep my I serve people with my straight Dao. Okay, I serve you with my straight Dao. Where can I go without being fired 3 times? If I serve people with my crook Dao, why do I need to leave my home state? Okay, so that means, just like Kwang explained, if I keep my Dao straight, your boss not always in a good mood, right? So you have been fired many, many times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, okay, because you keep the way straight. And then if I want to be a flatter, always please my boss, that means I have to crook my Dao. Okay, I have to bend my principle. So I can be successful anywhere. Why should I leave my hometown? I go to America, I go to England, I go to China. It's the same way because I can survive. I think that's what he meant, right? Kwang, do you agree?
Absolutely. That's how
So
I
let me
understand the
take
paragraph.
a second. Let me change it immediately. If I serve people with my okay, so I just make a quick change and then thank you, Kwang. Thank you, everyone. And that's the way we work. So thank you. Yeah. All right.
I just want to say one thing before we move on, and then Rain, I'll hand it over to you. These first 2 opening chapters both indicate speaking back to power, either directly or indirectly. And so you're getting a reiteration again and again of what Confucius considers of the utmost importance of a person of character.
Yeah, thank you. Ren, please.
Yeah, hi, just thanks so much. I have a question because based on content and also both discussion, so I like raise a question. Does Liu Xiahui compromise to corruption or reality or authority based on the content? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my question clearly.
Your question about
Yeah, I just really curious because based on like this sentence, and I just because he said, so I think like 直道而世人，焉往而不三浊；枉道而世人，何必去父母之邦？So I consider based on like this context that Liu Xiahui and he compromise with like that corruption because he knows the reality and actually he do not have any ability to change the reality. So he won't and follow his own Dao, but actually the fact is he cannot. Yeah, so I think based on what he described and that he compromised with reality or authority because he know he cannot achieve and his goal and or like follow his Dao.
so
Yeah. The way I understand, the way I understand our colleague is that Liu Xiahui might be a very idealistic officer,
Yeah.
that he would remonstrate with his lord, and he's willing to be dismissed many times, but at the same time, he's realistic enough for understanding that he would not necessarily change his lord, even if he's ready to be dismissed many times because of his loyal words.
Okay. Thank you, Kwang. So I just curious, yeah, based on that contact, yeah. So I just can feel, oh, he actually feel is maybe depression about the reality, yeah, when he speak about that, how to say that way, yeah. Thank you.
thank you, Ren.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may interrupt, I would say that we at the center of one of the sacred duty of a Confucianist officer precisely. Even if you serve a lowly lord, a lord which is not a gentleman, you should strive to serve him anyway, because you have to think to the people. Okay, that's one of the fantasies of the Confucian mythology. I stop here.
Yeah, but I think Liu Xiaohui is luckier than Wei Zi or Bi Gan, right? At least he still survived. So Bi Gan got killed. Yeah, so
Okay, I see. And they can devote their life and due to their achieve a higher score and their Dao. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Thank you.
all right. Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. Nick, please.
Yeah, I just want to share my interpretation of this. Leaving aside the details, I think he's basically making a point that it is universal. So the situation is not location dependent. It doesn't matter where you happen to serve. It's the same. So it's a universal idea that either you follow your Tao, so you offend the powers be, or you upbend your Tao and follow the wishes of the power be. So I think that's that's a point he's making. Another small footnote I like to make is that this word of warden. Warden in contemporary context means somebody running a prison, which is precise in the sense of literal sense. But in the context, I think the position actually is almost equivalent to the minister of justice, because in the old days, the government is very small, and to be able to be in charge of prison, meaning to be in charge basically of justice or exercising or execution of the laws. And it's very important position, put it that way, instead of just somebody running a prison with 100 inmates. That's not the scenario.
Yeah, actually, another way to translate is we probably should translate as a local judge or something. This kind of position is probably more proper because all that time, all the administrator also doing the justice job. Okay, so but yeah, I think that's one thing we can consider. Okay, is any other comment on this one? Then we can move on to chapter 3. Kwang, please.
Okay, so I read again the translation by Professor Robert Eno, 18.3. Duke Jing of Qi received Confucius, saying, "To host him as I would the head of the Qi family, this I'm unable to do. Establish him at a level between that used to host the Ji family and that used to host the Meng family." Then he further said, "I am old, I cannot employ him." Confucius departed.
Thank you, Kwang. Okay, chapter 3. Amang, please.
Book 18, Chapter 3. Regarding how to treat Confucius, Duke Jing of Qi said, "I cannot treat him the way that the Ji family was treated in the state of Lu. Let me treat him in a way as between the Ji family and Meng family." Later he said, I am old. I am old already. I cannot employ him." Confucius left the state of Qi after hearing about it.
Thank you, Amang. Here a few background about the Qi, the Duke Jing of Qi. He is the person, if you remember, the chapter, book 16. Let me show this one. 16:12. Okay. Here, okay, that's the famous feudal law we are talking about. Duke Jing of Qi has thousands of team of horses. On the day his death, people found no virtues to praise him. Okay, then Bo Yi Su Qi, that's another people is this. Okay, so that's the famous, powerful feudal lord. Okay, during that time. And Confucius, this time is when Confucius was young. I think it's around 35 to 37. There's some turmoil in the state of Lu, and Confucius went to state of Qi, which is more powerful and than the neighboring country. So he is expecting to get a job. And the Duke Jing of Qi at that time probably around 60 years old. So at that time 60 years considers old, and then so that's the question here, right? Because Confucius is a famous people and has a good reputation. He probably very straightforward. Okay, he never pleased his boss, so the Duke, okay, so is thinking about how to treat Confucius. So that's a different translation. When Dr. Eno will translate as how to receive Confucius, some people will assume Confucius is in the presence of Duke Jing of Qi. But here, my interpretation is Confucius is not there. That's Duke, the Lord, the Duke is in his court, is thinking about how to employ Confucius. So he's talking about if you treat him like a Ji family, because you know Ji family is the one in the state of Lu, is under power. And the Meng family is not in power. So he is nothing about I cannot give too much power to Confucius. And then if I treat him as Meng family, which means I don't give Confucius important position. So how about something in between? And then after that, he think about it, say, I'm old already. I'm not going to change. So Confucius heard about this. Confucius left. So that's a third person description about history. But of course, not only the English translation in Chinese interpretation also have a different point of view. Some people may say that Confucius is in present of the Duke. Duke is talking about how to receive, what kind of ritual to receive Confucius. That's another interpretation. So, but I prefer to take as a Confucius not in front of in the royal court, and then the Duke Jing of Qi is pondering how to use, how to employ Confucius. And the Confucius heard from other people say, oh, he talked about this, so Confucius just decide to leave. Okay, so that's my interpretation, and I would take this view. Yeah, Amal, please.
Thank you. So the first few chapters, what we've discussed are people talking back to people in positions of power and it costing them. Here is a person in power who maybe Confucius did or did not speak back to, but he didn't make an impression enough for this Duke to decide to hire him, which was the key thing that he had sought his whole life, was employment where he could make a real difference. And he left the state after apparently not wowing the Duke Jing. And Duke Jing is not spoken about kindly a few chapters or a few books previous to this, in book 16, which really tells you what we know now of this Duke is that nobody spoke nicely of him after he was gone, even though he had thousands of horses. That's the one thing that we can see passed down through the annals of time, because Confucius apparently was able to point back at this person in power and say, he wasn't a person of Ren. He wasn't a man of real character. And I think that there's some, not projection, some sour persimmons in the sense that this was a guy who really could have done something, but he chose not to. And he could have done something by hiring me, because with his authority, I could have done something, but he chose not to. And so this is just a figure who, rested on his laurels. This is almost, I don't want to say Confucius's small man, but it certainly is a person without the yi or sense of duty, justice, and righteousness, or bravery that we talked about a couple of weeks back.
Thank you, Amam. Kwang, you have a hand up, please.
Yes, I would go a little bit in the same direction that Aman, but I would like to give some historical details. Duke Jing of Qi was the ruler of Confucius' time, because his rule started in 547 BCE and he died in 490 BCE, meaning that he ruled during most of the time of Confucius' life, almost 60 years. So that Duke was the typical representation of what would be called a hegemon. He was at the head of a very powerful state and very rich state. If you compare the state of Qi with the state of Lu, meaning the principality from where Confucius is coming, I know that making that kind of comparison is not always easy, but just to give you an idea, right? the state of Qi can be compared to, let's say, China nowadays, okay? And the state of Lu could be compared to, let's say, South Korea, okay? I take two modern countries in the same civilizational sphere, meaning that in terms of power, there is no possible comparison. But the state of Lu had the pretension of having more culture. So Confucius, when he met Duke Jing of Qi, he was quite young, okay, he was 30 something. So Confucius came with all his idealistic perspective, wanting to introduce music ceremonies and rituals and so on. And he met that hegemon at the state of a very rich and very powerful state, and having a minister called Yan Ying. And that Yan Ying was the absolute good advisor for Duke Jing, because I don't want you to understand that Yang Ying was a bad advisor. On the contrary, he was excellent, but he was not the ritualistic one. Okay, he didn't want to introduce music and rituals and all those stuff. He was what we would call a legalist, meaning a good administrator, having efficient in managing the state and producing high revenues for his prince. He was not a barbarian. Yang Ying was a refined man, but he was not too interested in spreading the classical education to the general population. So he intrigued. So in a way that Duke Jing would not give a job to Confucius. I stop here.
Thank you, Kwang. Yeah, Yan Ying is, I think his advice against hiring Confucius is represent the different way of thinking, okay, to how to make a country, well, how to govern a state. That's a different school, and then, yeah, he should consider the legalism, I think. Yeah. Any other comment on this one? There's a lot of history. I think Kwang and I probably can talk for like hours about the history, but we are not going to do that. So because I can also talk about Yan Ying is a very short guy. Okay, then we have another story about Joe, please.
No, I just have a quick question. This had anything to do with essentially control over people's minds in a way. Actually, is maybe not necessarily having an education seen as a populace is easier to control. Just a question more than anything else.
Yeah. If I may interrupt, you remember what has been written in the Tao Te Ching. I don't remember the stanza, but sometimes the Taoists resemble a lot the legalists, okay? Fill the people's belly, but empty their minds.
Right. That is interesting, that the relationship between legalism and Taoism. Yeah, that's one of the.
Oh, there's a strong relationship. I have the plan to read Han Fei's interpretation. Here's a 2 chapter of interpretation of the Tao Te Ching. Okay, that's another way to read it. So that will be next project, I believe. So.
Can you just really quickly expand on that briefly?
Well, I think it's a very simple way to look at it is we don't want to go too far away from that. But basically, if you talk about Tao, right? And if you talk about let's use a very simple Wu Wei, non-action, right? So you can think about in legalism, how can you make a ruler, okay, non-action? You just use a simple law, okay? Let the law govern the people. Okay, use the right method, use the reward and the punishment. So the ruler can be non-action. He doesn't have to do anything. Okay, and then you can have the state being governed by law, by the minister. So if you change the audience to the ruler, that's another way to do it. But I'm not saying that's that's a one simple way to explain, because a lot of people want to know how does it related. You know. Okay, we probably can move to chapter 4. Now run out get the shorter and the shorter. And I really like to focus more is on chapter 5, 6, and 7, because this one has Joe, you probably will be interested. That's one. The 5, 6, and 7 have a very strong relationship with Taoism, I think, in my opinion. So let's go to chapter 4 first. Kwang, please.
Okay, so translation by Professor Robert Eno, 18.4. The people of Qi made a present of female musicians. Ji Huangzi received them, and for 3 days he did not attend court. Confucius departed.
Chapter 4.
Yeah. Would you like me to read?
Okay, please.
Yeah. The people of Qi sent to Lu a present of female musicians, which Ji Huan received, and for 3 days no court was held. Confucius took his departure.
Okay, thank you. Aman, you want to read this?
Book 18, Chapter 4. The people of Qi offered women, dancing girls, and musicians. Ji Huanzi received them and didn't attend the court for 3 days. Confucius left.
Thank you, Aman. I think this one is simple, and only difference is instead of translate 女乐 as female musician, I think that's Aman's suggestion to change it to the woman and the musician, because during that time, musician is male, I believe. So that's a dancing girl and musician as a team, okay, for entertaining and probably with sexual pleasure. Okay, so Ji family, remember, that's the most powerful family, basically control the state of Lu. So actually it's really corrupted, and that's the reason Confucius left. So that's it. And we don't know the back, well, at least I don't know the background. When does it happen? There must be during Confucius' employment by the state of Lu, I guess, and that's why he left and start to travel around. Okay, Aman, please.
Whatever history may ever have to say, Ji Huanzi is a lech for abandoning his duties for 3 days, and Confucius had to leave his state because of this. It's amazing the power of sort of the literary advantage, just that committing these quips to a text like the Analects. This now lives forever. We all will forever. If we think of Ji Huanzi, we'll think of the guy who, with wine, women, and song, couldn't be bothered to hold court for 3 days. He's absolutely the cliche of the negligent princeling attendee. Well, was this guy actually like this? We have no idea. Historians may have been able to suss out some indication one way or another. But the truth is that here what you're getting is a taste of how powerful committing a concept to words was. And that power was something that Confucius understood he was wielding. He understood that he was giving his students that power to wield words this way as well. And it's why he wanted such absolute, unassailable character from his students, because these things, the people are gone, but their ideas, their comments, they last indefinitely. Everywhere within the Analects, there's reiteration, there's reiteration, there's reiteration. all of those key concepts that we have been discussing throughout the Analects, things like xiao and ren and yi and duty and honesty and bravery, they rear their head everywhere, whether in positive or negative example. Here we have negative upon negative upon negative example, and Confucius left as just the amuse-bouche of what real character should look like.
Thank you, Abam. Kwang, please.
Yes, according to the urban legend of Confucianism, those female musicians has been sent because the Principality of Qi began to be a little bit nervous because of the good administration of Confucius, and they expected Ji Huangzi to have fun with those dancing girls and making Confucius angry, and he would start to leave for his 14 years long exile. So if we trust the urban legend, this event happened in 497 BCE.
Okay, so thank you, Kwang. So in this version of the story, that's the time Confucius left for his 14 years journey.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
because
the
if
you can make
yes,
a soap opera. Okay, that's the last last straw. Okay, to make Confucius left. Okay.
exactly, and the Duke wanting to offend him, so he leave. When there was a ceremony at the ancestral temples of the principality, normally as a minister, he should have received a share of the sacrificial meat, but he did not receive his share of the sacrificial meat, and that was the signal that the Duke didn't want him to be a minister anymore, so he left.
Yeah, thank you. Joe, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to add on to this, other than the fact that I would say that fundamentally, yeah, it kind of undermines trust to a certain degree, and which is actually fundamental to Confucius, is that this idea that somebody is trying to put you in a position to compromise yourself, or to put you in a position to leave, then obviously there's an element of kind of you no longer trust the people around you, which is actually fundamental to any kind of relationship with any kind of governance at all. So from that perspective, from that very basic perspective, I could see why that would be something as to a reason as to not stick around, in the sense that not only is somebody trying to, not only have you lost trust in the government, but they're trying to take something like your character.
Thank you, Joe. More comment? Anyone have a question, comment?
Actually, I do have one more comment, because as Quan pointed out, the idea that these dancing girls were a gift from the state of Qi as a strategic maneuver to weaken their rival. So in 2 chapters here, we have the state of Qi standing in twice for representation of legalist principles of absolute amoralistic means to ends. In other words, the idea that they would be savvy enough to sabotage the neighboring kingdom's asset, i.e. Confucius, by sending dancing girls and musicians as opposed to soldiers and battalions, was a strategically simple use of resources to play out what worked to their advantage. What I'm seeing as we're doing this is how these two chapters in particular, and through their connection to legalism, and through that back to the Sun Tzu, are being spoken to in the Analects. That in these two chapters, we can see the Analects addressing Sun Tzu and his principles and how they've developed in Confucius' time, and saying this is a bereft philosophy. This is absolutely not what people ought to be doing. I do like seeing the discourse between the text, and so I just wanted to bring that to light for everyone else here too.
Thank you, Amang. Let's move on. Chapter 5. And I just remind everyone, personally, I like chapter 5, 6, and 7 a lot. And I think probably among the all Confucius Analects, okay, I probably like these three a lot. Okay, so go ahead, Kwang, if you want to read, please.
Yes, so Professor Eno's translation of chapter 18.5. A madman of Chu encountered the chariot Confucius was driving, and walking across its path, intoned, "Phoenix, Phoenix, how virtue has withered. What is past is beyond repairing. What is to come is still worth pursuing. Enough, enough, danger now for those at court." Confucius stepped down, wishing to speak with him, but the madman hurried to dodge away, and Confucius was unable to speak with him.
Thank you, Kwang. Joe, you want to read? Ladies?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the madman of Chu, I'm sorry.
True,
G,
yeah.
J U Wu.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I'm trying to get this. Passed by Confucius singing and saying, O Fang, how is your virtue degenerated? As to the past, reproof is useless, but the future may still be provided against. Give up your vain pursuit. Give up your vain pursuit. Pearl awaits those who now engage in affairs of government. Confucius aligned and wished to converse with him, but Ji Yu hastened away so that he could not talk with him. Sorry.
Thank you, Joe. It's let me see what's my text.
The leggy is rough. No apologies necessary.
Well, because they have a lot of names, but actually I don't see that's a name, so I translate in a different way. So, okay. Go ahead, Amang, please.
Book 18, chapter 5. A Bohemian from the state of Chu encountered the passing carriage of Confucius and saying, Phoenix, Phoenix, how the De has declined. What is past cannot be admonished, but what is to come can still be pursued. Stop, stop. Those who engage in government affairs today are in danger. Confucius got down and hoped to talk to him, but he turned and scurried away. Thus, Confucius did not talk to him.
Thank you, Amang. Actually, it's one of the reasons I like this one is the same story happened in the Zhuangzi, chapter 2, in the human world. And then it also starts with the same thing. That's the Bohemian in the state of Chu singing this song. But this song is much longer. And of course, that song has been expanded to a Taoism teaching. So these two stories are, well, it's hard to say it's true or not true, but you can see it appear in two important texts. One is in Confucius Analects, one is in Zhuangzi. But of course, it's very possible Zhuangzi copy from Confucius Analects. It's also possible. It could be the real situation. That's the first thing I'd like to talk about. Second, if you compare to the previous one, we talk about the people of Qi, or talk about the Duke Jing of Qi. Qi is a powerful state on the north side of the state of Lu. And then here we talk about the state of Chu. Chu is another powerful, but basically it's huge on the size, on the south part of the Lu. So right now we are not talking about the north part of China. We talk about south. Okay, and when I talk south, don't mistake us like Hong Kong or this kind of place. No, the south is still north of Shanghai. So you can say in today's central China. So right now it's talking about Confucius. I don't know this one is Confucius visit state of Chu or not, but basically he's talking about a person from the state of Chu. And then most translation translate as a madman. Okay, here the word is Kuang. Okay, so Kuang has been used in Confucius Analects many times. Okay, sometimes it's sort of a positive meaning. That means you are ardent. Okay, you are very passionate. Okay, and this passion you have to control, otherwise will go wrong. So the negative meaning could be fanatic. Okay, you are too crazy about something. So that's the word. And most of translation is madman. I'm not sure in the English if we translate madman, what kind of meaning we have. But my understanding here, I discussed with Amang, we decide to use bohemian. Okay, basics, we are talking about more like political descendant or outlier. Okay, I don't care the social norm. Okay, this kind of person, I behave in the way I want to behave. Not necessarily a bad person or good virtuous person, just I disagree on the society and I go my own way. So, and then second, another thing is about the difficult word. Joe tried to pronounce 接语, that's the name. So most of texts will consider this bohemian or madman, his name is 接语, but actually it's not. Okay, so this one is very, I would say in the Zhuangzi Taoism text, they will use the situation. For example, we see a monk, and I will say, oh, guy with black cap. Okay, so people say, oh, black cap is his name. No, actually, that's how I run into a monk. Okay, so here, 接语 means encounter your carriage. Okay, so apparently Confucius is on the car, on the carriage, and somebody encountered, okay, Confucius, and he is singing. He's singing Phoenix, Phoenix. Phoenix has been considered as a holy bird, which means if it's a phoenix, that means the word is in the Tao is prevail. Okay, so in the well-governed world, the phoenix will appear. So, but here, Phoenix could call us the ideal world, could mean Confucius, okay, some ideology, I think here is mean. He talk about the virtue is decline and what has passed, you cannot admonish or you cannot correct them, and the future you still can pursue, and stop, or you want to translate as enough, okay? So it's danger now, So you talk about very Taoism thinking, Taoistic thinking, right? The political world is dangerous, and the virtue is declining, just leave this world, okay? So Confucius heard this one. He want to get down to talk to this person, but this person walk away. Confucius have no chance to talk to him. So that's the story try to describe. And of course, that's up to you to how are you going to interpret this one. And I will see the Zhuangzi chapter 2, the human world, the interpretation will the Zhuangzi expand this one, talk about he make fun of Confucius. He talk about the way you should do is avoid danger. Definitely you should not get involved the political world and just take care of yourself. Of course, that's Taoism, Zhuangzi's interpretation. But here just describe what's going on. Confucius run into somebody singing the song. Confucius realized this one is not necessarily Taoist sage, but basically is somebody. So Confucius want to talk to him, but he missed the chance. That's it. So that's this text. And I really like this one. And then how do you think? And Aman, please.
Thank you, Jason. And yeah, I agree. I really like this text because it feels very contemporary in a lot of ways. In the same way that if anyone here has driven in certain, particularly big cities, I'm thinking of like LA. If you've driven and gotten stuck in traffic in LA and a window washer came up to you, all I have to say is the expression window washer. And you absolutely know what it means in that context. It's somebody's got a handful of newspaper, spray bottle, is washing your window, whether you want them to or not. And then after they've done a job, varying degrees may vary, they're going to expect a tip. They're going to want a tip. They're going to ask you. So it's a very particular niche form of panhandling in modern society. In the same sense, JU or carriage encounterer carries the same kind of immediate loaded understanding as window washer. You hear that in this context, you're like, oh yeah, absolutely, I totally understand it. And if you don't know the reference or if you haven't had the experience, you can probably imagine it. It goes very much like this little vignette. You're in your carriage, you're traveling along, and somebody who you did not invite, did not ask for, did not anticipate comes up and engages you in some unexpected way. Now, this JU did not ask for, a few coins on his way out for the song, like the window washer might ask for a few bucks for the clean windshield, but the principle's kind of the same. However, what Confucius wants to give him is something more valuable than a few coins. He wants to give him his knowledge, his words. He wants to speak with him. But the guy flits off and dances away, and he isn't able to pass on this really valuable thing to him, his words. Yeah, this feels like a contemporary tiny sliver moment on a field trip. And the student went, oh, I'm making notes of this. Whether that was the song he actually sang or not, it was a song that was worth putting in there because it was more poignant. And that the master not only didn't just say, get away from my carriage, you vagabond, but actually stopped the carriage because he wanted to get out and talk to him, was something that the student saw and was like, I got to take this down. This is noteworthy. So noteworthy, it's made it a couple millennia down the line to us.
Thank you, Amam. Let's move on. Juan and Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say that Phoenix is a compliment from Jieyu to Confucius, okay? Because the Phoenix is the equivalent of the dragon for the state of Chu, because in the northern Chinese states, the fabulous animal symbolizing power and spirituality was and is the dragon, and it was the big southern state of Chu who invented the phoenix. So when Jieyu called Confucius Phoenix, he was acknowledging Confucius' greatness. And I want to say that I already say that in the past, but at the origin, okay? what we call the Confucianists and the Taoists were the same people. Okay, they were educated man. They knew the Chinese classics. Most of the time, they came from cadet branches of the nobility. So, and when Confucius was in Chu, it was at the end of his exile. Okay, so it was probably around 492 BCE, something like that. So Confucius was 66, 67 years old. And he wanted to talk to Jie Yu because he knew that he wanted to talk to a peer who did not share his political vision and advise him to let down all those quests for a job, for bringing reforms to a state in order to benefit the people. But he wanted to have a chat with a man that he know was his equal in terms of epistemological development and in terms of classical education. So I would say that it's a flash of timelessness in time. I stop here.
Thank you, Kwang. Joe, please.
Yeah, just really briefly, I mean, the line that stuck out to me was the peril awaits those who now engage in affairs of government. And where it's this idea of giving up on the pursuit because this is an exercise in futility. But there's an element of and I can see where, Jason, you're relating this back out to the Tao, that it's not eternal. That this is not something that is going to last forever, meaning the government itself. So this inability to change and to be able to be adaptable is going to lead to at least some form of discomfort and anxiety. So this ability to be able, almost like I would almost say it was if I had to compare it, not comparing the two at all, I'm just saying that there is a similarity in almost an Epicurean type of perspective, that if you involve yourself in politics, that it will lead to some disturbance. So therefore, it would be best if you didn't do it. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, yeah, what is eternal then, right? What is really meaningful? What is going to provide you with something that is going to let you to, I don't know, live a life that's undisturbed. So, I mean, and again, I can think of nothing worse than feel like you push a boulder up a hill and that it's actually, obviously that there's no purpose behind it. So when you think about these things, from that perspective, I can very much see the relationship to the Tao. But if I'm looking at this even more, though, from a more Confucian standpoint, there is a certain responsibility that exists, that you do the best you can. So therefore, I could see some conflict here. Anyway, I get it's, you can see the eternal aspect versus the this too shall pass.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, let's go to Mark, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, I had a very similar thought to Joe. This passage also reminded me of Epicurus, except for the word now, which I thought was interesting, at least in the English translation. And it makes me wonder about the historical context a little bit. Like, was this like at the beginning of the Warring States period or right before it? Because I'm wondering if things were about to get a lot more bloody than they had been in the past, in which case possibly Confucius's endeavor to reform states could have made more sense before pushing back on your lord was likely to get you executed. Anyways, I'm wondering if anybody has any comment on the historical aspect of it, and specifically because of he's not just saying, at least in the English translation, that affairs of state are likely to be dangerous. He's saying now they're likely to be, and he also mentions the degenerate virtue, which makes it sound like he has respect for Confucius's virtue, but he thinks it's kind of at a low point, and that might be because of the historical context, would be my speculation. Okay, so I'm wondering if anybody has a comment on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so I have some thought on that, but of course, it depends on how you interpret this one. First, about the or virtue here. I do read this one since this person, Bohemian, or you are called madman, is for sure is a Taoist. Okay, so I will translate this word not as a Confucius virtue. I will see as a 道德经 德, which is more on the power. Okay, so you talk about general trend of general trend of the society is going downward. That's my interpretation. About the political danger, is that's a lot of war. During that time has a lot, but compared to the warring state, it's relative not that much war, that many wars. But I think it's more on political danger. Okay, it's a usurp. Okay, political fighting, all this kind of exile, all this kind of thing happen. That's I believe. And the third thing I'd like to say, if this happened in the state of Chu, and I believe during that time, people might think about state of Chu is kind of the foreign country, okay, because Chu has never been the lord, the ruler of Chu has never been as a duke or something else title, always as a king. So they consider as parallel at the same level of the state of Zhou, okay, which is the center of China. So that's my my thought. But of course, since the text doesn't have a clear information, everything is just speculation. Okay, Joe, please.
Yeah, I mean, just really quickly, as far as the time element, the idea of the future as well as the now is both spoken about, but I think that this actually gets more to the idea of time versus timelessness, more so than just say those two particular words, as Quan was pointing out. So I don't necessarily agree with this idea that it's a point in time that we're talking about. I think that this is an overall approach as to how that something that is eternal versus not.
I just needed to pipe up really quickly to address Mark a little. So Confucius dies 481 BCE, and the warring states, quote unquote, you can give it a timeline. It starts 478 BCE. So he is living right at the cusp of the warring states. And it probably was relevant that sort of the urgency of his wanting to intercede in government was to stave off what historically became inevitable. Kwang, go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to bring two historical notes. What happened probably if we accept Confucian tradition? This scene, this vignette happened somewhere in 492 BCE, okay? And let's not forget that Confucius returned to Lu in 484. But in 489 BCE, he has been offered a job in that kingdom of Chu precisely. But the king who offered him a job, King Chao of Chu, died some months later, and that occasion was never realized in reality precisely. And I would say that the encounter with Jie Yu, if we accept that it has been a historical event, happened somewhere between 492 BCE and 489 BCE, just before Confucius was informed of the death of King Chao of Chu in 489 BCE. Confucius was perfectly aware that it was his last chance of doing something serious with a powerful sovereign. So that's why that vignette is especially poignant, because once again, it's the clash in timelessness with time, okay? Timelessness of his desire to create a society that he called Li Yi Chu Pang, meaning a civilized society with rituals and with music. And he truly hoped that the offer of King Chao of Chu would be the occasion, especially that the kingdom of Chu, at the beginning of the Zhou dynasty in 1046 BCE, has been granted a very minor nobility title by the king of Zhou, meaning not even Zi. I think they have been given a title of Baron Nan. When the Zhou dynasty went into decline in 770 BCE, the people of Chu began to assert their own originality. And because they have a very different culture from the culture of northern China. A little bit like the United States, many centuries later, would be the mix between northern United States and southern United States. Well, China is the same, but very long time ago. Okay, you have the northern culture of the Zhou dynasty and the southern culture of the Chu dynasty and of the Chu kingdom. And the Chu people or the Chu leaders decided to call themselves a king in 710 BCE. Okay, so it was 4 centuries before most of the other lords, and they are a little bit like Jason say, a foreign country, but at the same time, they share the same adventure that the Zhou dynasty, because in 1046 BCE, when the Zhou has been created, they have been granted a very minor nobility title because they were considered kind of barbarians. But which is not true, because as you know, history is written by the victors, because the Chu culture is a very refined culture. And I would say that in terms of music, in terms of architecture, in terms of literature, it's quite equal to the culture of the Zhou dynasty, in my understanding. Okay, so because the Zhou wrote the chronicles, of course, they would put the Chu kingdom under them in terms of cultural achievement. The other thing that I would like to mention too, Jie Yu was a man of Chu, and he's quite characteristic of the Chu people in the sense that they have, if I would call the northern Chinese more practical people, more military people, more violent people. After all, they would create the first empire. The Chu people were more romantic, were more, let's say, Taoist, okay? Because if I want to summarize what are the northern Chinese people, they were Confucianists and they were legalists. They were the creator of the military apparatus and of the state apparatus that would create the empire. They have culture and music and literature too, of course. But the Chu people were much more, well, let's say, softer. And I would say that calling them Taoists is not entirely wrong according to our understanding of what is Taoism and what is Taoist nowadays. I stop here.
Thank you, Kwang.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And I had to correct myself because Quan didn't. I messed up those dates. 479, death of Confucius. 481, arguable start of the Warring States. Still on the cusp, but there's a little overlap.
Okay, thank you. Hold on. Oh yeah, I want to yeah. One of the reasons I like this one, because if you read the text talking about the Phoenix, Phoenix is how the De has declined. All this, if you read in Chinese, it's very poetic, and then that's a total represent the southern language. Okay, 凤兮, the word 兮 actually is the southern tone. Okay, so it's beautiful. I just have to say, but I don't know how to translate in English. So let's put it this way. So let's move on. And I think chapter 6 is a little bit long, but we can discuss this one. And then chapter 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, we will, for sure, I think we will finish next week. So let's move on. Kwang, please.
Okay, so translation by Professor Robert Eno, paragraph 18.6. Chang Ju and Jieni were plowing the fields in harness together. Confucius passed by and sent his disciple Zilu over to ask directions. Chang Ju said, "Who is that holding the carriage reins?" Zilu said, "That is Kong Qiu." Kong Qiu of Lu? Yes. Why then? He knows where he can go. Zilu then asked Jieni. Jieni said, "And who are you?" "I am Zhong You." "Are you a disciple of Kong Qiu of Lu?" "I am." "The world is inundated now. Who can change it? Would you not be better off joining those who have fled from the world altogether, instead of following someone who flees from this man to that one?" Then the two of them went on with their plowing. Zilu returned to report to Confucius. The master's brow furrowed. "I cannot flock together with the birds and beasts," he cried. "If I'm not a fellow traveler with men such as these, then with whom? If only the way prevailed in the world, I would not have to try to change it."
Thank you, Kwang. Joe, you want to take the challenge?
Sure. You got that right. So Cheng Tu and Ji Ni were at work in the field together when Confucius passed by them and sent Zilu to inquire for the ford. Cheng Zu said, "Who is he that holds the reins in the carriage there?" Zulu told him, It is Kong Kui." All right, that's the best I could do. "Is it not Kong Kui of Lu?" asked he. "Yes," was the reply, to which the other rejoined, "He knows the ford." Zulu then inquired of Ji Ni, who said to him, "Who are you, sir?" He answered, "I am Zong Yu." "Are you not the discipline of Kong Kui of Lu?" asked the other. "I am," replied he. And then Ji Ni, again, I'm going as I can with that, said to him, "Disorder, like a swelling flood, spreads over the whole empire. And who is he that will change its state for you, rather than follow one who merely withdraws from this one and that one? had you not better follow those who have withdrawn from the world altogether? With this, he fell to covering up the seed and proceeded with his work without stopping. Zilu went and reported their remarks. When the master observed with a sigh, it is impossible to associate with birds and beasts, as if they were the same as with us. If I associate not with these people, with mankind, with whom I shall associate, if right principles prevailed through the empire, there would be no use for me to change its state. Its state. Yeah, it's definitely one of those simple ones.
I think our translation will be much easier to read.
I hope so.
Okay, let's see.
Book
Because
18, Chapter 6. A tall guy and a well-built guy farmed together in the wetlands. Confucius passed by and sent Zulu to ask them the directions to the ford. The tall guy said, "Who's that person driving the carriage?" Zulu said, "He is Kongchu," Confucius. He said, "Is he Kongchu of Lu?" Sorry, that's a question. Zulu replied, "Yes." The tall guy said, "He knows the direction to the ford." Zulu then asked the well-built guy. The well-built guy said, "Who are you?" Zulu said, "Songyu, Zulu." The well-built guy said, "You're a disciple of Kongchu of Lu?" Zulu replied, "Yes." The well-built guy said, "The same water is running all over the world. Who can change it? Instead of following the person who flees from people, why don't you follow the person who flees from this world?" Then they kept plowing. When Zulu left to report, teacher felt lost and said, "We cannot flock with birds and beasts. If we cannot be with these people, whom can we be with? Had the Tao prevailed in the world, I wouldn't have tried to change it with you."
Thank you, Amam. So here, I think first the name, okay, Changni, Changqu, and Jieni, okay. So, okay, again, same as the previous one, we talk about the person Jieyu, that means encounter, the carriage. Changqu means the tall person in the ditch, stay in the ditch, okay. And Jie means well-built, powerful, strong guy, is also in the small pond. Okay, so that's the name, and I think that's a very typical way of you will see something in the Taoism text, like in Zhuangzi, that sometimes people translate Nie Que and Wang Yu, but actually I will translate as the guy missing tooth, Nie Que, and Wang Yu I will translate as a baby king. Okay, so that has their meaning, and then basically it's called by the look of the person or in the situation. That's why I translate as tall guy and well-built guy. And they are working in the wetland. Okay, so apparently right now they are in the south part of China because it grow rice is on the wetland. So Confucius passed by and he got lost. Okay, this one could be metaphorically got lost. Okay, so he asks Zilu. Zilu is one of his disciples, always with Confucius. Okay, and he's only 9 years younger than Confucius. He served as Confucius' kind of younger brother or bodyguard. So he always travel with Confucius. So he said got lost. So he go to ask the tall guy. Say, okay, you want to find the ford, the direction. So the answer is interest, right? So apparently Confucius from the state of Lu is famous. Okay, he say, oh, he's Kongqiu. Okay, it's a little bit strange. Zilu called his teacher by the given name, Qiu. Okay, and call himself the Zhong Yu. as a courteous name. Okay, so it is a little bit strange. Let's forget about this part. But they said he want to ask the direction, and the well-built guy, his answer is, well, the tall guy said he knows the direction, right? Confucius is a smart guy. Okay, you say, oh, I want to know the direction. They say you know the direction. So they are talking about different things, right? Confucius is talking about I got lost. I need to know find the port. And he say, well, you don't get lost. You smart guy, you know. Okay, he talk about the direction of politics of this world. That's he's talking about. So then the conversation keep going on. So the well-built guy start to give a lesson to Zilu, right? So you following this guy, Confucius, who escaped free from people, talk about political world, right? So since you escape from people, why don't you follow the people free from the world? Okay, so the Taoist people is free from the world. Confucius supposed to get involved in the political world, but right now he's stay away, he's running away. So since you are running away, why not just follow us? Okay, running away from the world. You don't just running away from the people, because just like the same water running all over the world, another metaphor. Okay, so it's water all over the place. You running away from people. You better running away, just like us running away from the world. Okay, so it's not a usual person, right? That's another recruit, and the Taoist recruits, and then Zilu went back to report to Confucius. So that's interesting. Confucius, ful然, that's the only, I think that's the only time. Okay, ful然 means you feel you lost. Okay, so that's the only time Confucius feel lost. Okay, so Confucius feel lost, say, well, we cannot follow the birds and the beasts. Okay, we are people, we're human, right? And then if we don't go with them, who shall I with? I don't want to go with animal. So if Tao is prevail in the world, I will not change it with you. You means Zilu, right? So, so right now the difference is the sounds like this tall guy and the well-built guy try to recruit Zilu on his side, become a Taoist. And the Confucius say, well, if the world is, the Tao is prevail, I will not ask you come with me to change the world. So you can see this dynamic, right? Different direction. The Taoists think about you escape and then leave the world alone. And the Confucius idea is he feel like lost. Yes, that would be easy way. That would be maybe the right way. Okay, a higher possibility to escape. But as a Confucianism, okay, you should get involved in the political and still try to change the world. Even I know the possibility of success is very low, I will still try it. I think that's a Confucius message. So this one, I think, objectively bring a pretty good message and the different idea between Taoism and Confucianism. So I stop here, and Amang, please.
Thank you. And I really love this book of the Analects, because here we see the discourse between the Confucian school and the competing schools of their time as a sort of meta-analysis. After this text was compiled, after it was being read widely, look at these 6 chapters in theme. Chapters 1 and 2, remonstrate, speak back to those even in power when they're wrong. 3 and 4, legalist, ruthless pragmatist, militarist, speak back to these people. 5 and 6, Taoist renunciants, those who have abandoned the world of people, Taoistically, one way or another. renounce these people. This tall guy and this well-built guy, I have to imagine one of them was chewing on a piece of straw about this long, because that's the image that we're really trying to evoke here, is that he encountered click and clack, and they're giving him some homespun, homegrown, good old boy wisdom. Just quit trying to do all the hard stuff you're trying to do, because this world is just not having it. Haven't you noticed? That's more or less the message they give him, though you get the impression of their character by they're asking questions to answers they know. Who's that? It's Confucius. Confucius of Lu? Yeah. Huh. You a student? Yeah. These are pretty painfully obvious things if they know enough to know this much, because we know that Confucius was highly conspicuous. He was unusually tall. And so when we're talking about a tall guy and a well-built guy, if Confucius looks anything like this tall guy, and he's not this tall guy, he's obviously Confucius, most likely, they've learned. It's kind of a satirical takedown of a quintessentially Taoistic personality. The person who later would be one of the, worthies of the bamboo grove, the people who just said, to hell with it all. I am hands off, done with the world. And why are you still trying so hard? But his retort comes at the very, very end when he says, we cannot flock with birds and beasts. You go try and be that one with nature. Those birds will run away. Those beasts will run away from you. You're not one of them. You are one of us. You are a human, and humans have to do human things. Had the Tao prevailed, capital T, the human way that he was trying to instill in these states prevailed, then he and Zulu would not have been trying to change it this whole time. If the natural, normal, healthy human way had prevailed, he wouldn't be trying to do this. But it hadn't. And that's why, as much of a fool's errand as it was a duty of a junsa to continue to try and make a difference. And he would, just not knowingly in his lifetime. That's the plight of all teachers, I guess. I'm going off camera. I will have to run shortly. I thank everybody. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Abam. Yeah, we will stop by continue reading. Okay, so if I also need to go after discussion on this one, and the next week we'll start from chapter 7. Chapter 7 also important in my point of view. 8, 9, 10, 11 is not that important, also in my point of view, but we will go through that, then we can move to chapter 19. So thank you, and let's continue to discussion. Let's go from Kwang, Joe, and Mark. Thank you.
No, I mean, I think you've actually captured quite a bit of what I would be, sharing. But, as far as this sharp distinction between Taoism and Confucianism, but there is, I can see that regardless of the situations, that you ought to be behaving morally, and that your role as a human being is to be a participant in organized society. Therefore, that you ought to be active, both politically and intellectually, and you should be sharpening your your decision-making abilities. So that is, very much the Confucian approach. But I mean, this is a question, more than it is the kind of a statement that isn't there an element of wisdom that transcends both of these kind of differences that we were highlighting. So yes, yes, you may be more of a participant in society, but at the very least, knowing when to act and when not to act. The idea of Wu Wei, in a sense. The importance of inaction is as important as knowing when to act. Or of action. I'm sorry, knowing when to act is as important as action. Sorry about that. So, there's this I see this sharp distinction between the two that's undeniable, but I also see this element of similarities that can be. You can see where both of these philosophies are attempting to determine the best way to live one's life, but some of the principles are similar in the sense that the idea of right measure, I would just say. And so even the Tao itself, speaks about not breaking the whole up into too many parts. Right, so that once you divide the whole, it needs parts. So what is the right measure? And I don't necessarily think that is any different than what is Z? Z is like wisdom, the idea of wisdom in Confucianism. So I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit I don't know, optimistic, and I'm looking for the commonalities between the two, but I don't know, maybe if anybody has any comments on that.
Thank you, Joe. And yeah, actually, that's a very typical way, right? We see two different cultures, okay, Taoism, Confucianism, or Asian, Western. We can always focus on the common part, or focus on the difference. You always can find the difference. You always can find the common. But here, you are right. They have the common wisdom. That's why previous one in Jieyu, okay, Confucius see the Bohemian. He want to talk to him. I'm not sure Confucius want to teach him or want to learn from him. We don't know. Could be Confucius want to learn from him. Here, apparently, this tall guy and the well-built guy try to teach Zilu, right? So, and I think next week we will start from chapter 7. It's more interesting, right? So same again, Zilu is going to run into another old man, and this old man is criticize Confucius, and the Confucius also criticize them. Okay, so but are they in the same boat? They are thinking about the same thing. Hard to say. They could be the same thing. Okay, but they have kind of criticized each other in the very subtle way. I think that's next week, in chapter 7. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and just really quickly, I mean, part of this is what? Conservation.